and welcome to Virtual Concert Hall's live music channel. My name is Chris Au, and I have with me the co-founder of Virtual Concert Halls, Dr. Anna Ouspenskaya, and we will be your hosts for today's show.
That's great to be back, and we are exploring further, and I can't wait for the next chapter. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, this is part 6 of the documentary of Beethoven Symphony No. 4, written and narrated by Lawrence Rapchak, created by New Media Productions Worldwide and Virtual Concert Halls, and produced by Architects of Music.
Thank you, everyone, collaborating for this project with us. It's been an incredible journey, fueled by our shared passion for connecting musicians and audiences in real-time performances in various music events, music films from around the entire globe.
So in terms of structure, we have the descending main theme, then a move to the dominant key of B flat for the lovely secondary theme in the clarinet, the third closing theme, the bassoon duet, and now there's a return to the main theme in the tonic key in E flat, so it's sort of like a rondo with A returning. And once again we hear a full version of the martial motive, which always seems to intrude a bit on the serenity of the music, but this time it will lead to this. And that was a very powerful and rather tragic sounding restatement of the main theme in the minor key and with the basic outline of the theme, that descending scale, very clearly audible. And the music fades and it resolves into the key of G flat major. And after that drama and darkness, well, I'd say that we are most likely in the central development section of this movement. And that florid motive from before is now heard in a gentle improvisatory cadenza for the first and second violins. And Beethoven reduces his orchestra to a bare minimum, with the martial motive, a solo bassoon, emerging from the silence. The main theme now is descending in the clarinet, and the martial motive distant now in cellos and basses. The main theme now continues in the clarinet, and E flat minor now shifts to E flat major, and this brief development section ends with the return of our lovely main theme in a graceful embellished version by the flute. And the rhythmic pulse, the ba-dum-bum motive, will now be provided by the violins. Which replaces the more martial motive from the beginning. And this recapitulation is introduced by the two French horns, with the martial figure very softly in the timpani, sounding as if they are heralding the return of the main theme from afar. There is something totally enchanting about this music that captures another major element of the Romantic era. the fascination with the ancient world of legend, the age of chivalry and knighthood, which was largely a reaction against the spread of industrialization at the time. There was also a renewed sense of man's profound relationship with nature, which would inspire another of Beethoven's magnificent symphonies. And this gorgeous second movement will essentially retrace its steps now in the recapitulation, giving us another opportunity to experience the wonders of this music, but now with a slightly different character in the tonic key of E-flat major. And there is a brief coda preceded by the florid motive that gracefully winds its way through the string section, ending in the cellos. And then a calm, almost chorale-like return of the main theme with no underlying rhythm, the only time in the movement that it doesn't have rhythmic vitality underneath. There's a series of miniature cadenzas, of arpeggios for solo wind instruments. It's very pastoral in nature, which grow and expand into a grandiose chorale-like cadence. And a final timpani fanfare from afar. So here are the last few minutes of the second movement, beginning with the return of the dreamy secondary theme in the clarinet, rising from the warm and luminous string choir and their diminished chord. And there is indeed an unmistakable nature quality to this passage, shepherd's calls and bird song, not literally illustrated, but all through this movement, the continuous sense of motion, whether it's the regal martial motif, often sounding like a fanfare, or the gentle flowing motive. Beethoven masterfully combines all of these elements into a magical, mythical sort of fantasy cum serenade that is as overtly romantic in the truest sense of the word as anything that he or anyone else ever wrote.
Well, there you have it, the end of the second movement. Finally, with all these mention of wow, just the profound relationship with nature, which we discussed in Beethoven Symphony Number Six. We talked about this sense of movement before as well. Wow, I'm just
It all comes
amazed.
together in that movement, and
Yeah.
Lawrence Rapchak is spending quite a bit of time going in depth into that movement. The entire three chapters are dedicated to a slow movement, which is, probably not the longest in the symphony, and seemingly the least of packed with events, but it's filled with so much subtlety and so much underlying conflict and emotional subtle changes, that it's really worth that look into it. Just like our inner voice, inner self, our explorations of our inner richness is really worth attention, because there's a lot there. Not only what we do, but also what we feel, what we think, and how we explore our own selves inside.
Yeah, I like really a lot how he discusses the way Beethoven expresses the inner self, and we talked about this last time. And it's not just the inner self of emotional reaction towards certain things or suffering, although there is this idea of tragedy. And one of the most beautiful moments I found actually was that powerful tragic restatement of the main theme in the minor key, that sort of this descending, thundering down, and it felt
Yeah, and it's so
yeah,
short, such a short detour. I wouldn't even say in the
absolutely.
E flat minor, unlikely key actually for a lot of symphony, because it's such an uncomfortable key for strings, for example, with all the flats and
Yeah,
stuff. Yeah, and I absolutely love how our team represented it when the E flat minor appeared. If you remember, Chris, on the film,
yeah.
all of a sudden the horizontal waters turn into flooding vertical waters of
Yeah,
turbulent white foam in there, and
yeah.
it really has that feeling, the E flat minor, of really descending somewhere. Yeah.
You nailed it, and I find that this was one of the moments where you really feel emotionally as though he's kind of like weeping, or the deep sort of like exhales every time this chord comes in, this exhaling of emotion. But then it's gone very so
It's gone
quickly.
before you blink, right? It's
Yeah,
such a
you
short moment.
it dissipates, and you wonder what happened. And apart from that, we do talk about this relationship with nature, and yeah, I find how Larry wraps it all up with all these. It's not just musical, which he talks about diminished chords and all that, but it's not just natural. He talks about these storms and the peasants and the shepherd songs and all that, but it's philosophically such a great piece of music. It could be a standalone piece,
Oh
really.
yeah,
This
that's
movement.
that slow movement, absolutely, and of course the architecture of it being the sonata form is it's been developed to be a standalone form, which has basically the entire arch of a story, from the beginning, the conception of the story, through the development of what happened in there, in the narrative, and then a conclusion. It's like your perfect college essay, that's the whole form of the sonata form, and it's not that common for the composers to use this over encapsulating form for the slow movement. A lot of times it's something more simple and less conclusive than the sonata format, but this one is written in that one.
Yeah, that's just amazing how if we just start to dissect and to discuss these sort of symphonies and what they signify and what the importance of it is, you come up with a really amazing way of understanding storytelling. And I think that in our day and age of a lot of entertainment and media, I think these things are still really relevant. How you tell a story, how you express emotion, how you contrast and add variety. And one thing that he does so well is this continuous sense of flow throughout, which I think is really important in a movie, perhaps in a book as well, but also perhaps in the way we understand what we need to do when we program things. We're hosting, we're doing all these shows, and we're doing different, trying to produce things. And I think this idea of continuous sense of flowing movement really makes the impact of the emotions so much greater. And I think that's just wonderful to learn from Beethoven into how we can apply in our modern age, in our modern media and sense of what we have now.
Well, I would even go further and say this is not only for the various forms of arts, and obviously, of course, the broadcasts and shows being one of the forms of arts and storytelling.
Right.
But I would say it goes into even practical application in everyday life, because it's representing the purposeful storytelling, and with Beethoven's music and peeking behind the scenes of how he builds his story, gives us a great lesson on effective communication, basically.
Yeah, that's true.
Everyone is always moaning, "Oh, I'm being misunderstood." Well, this is how we hone our skills of relating the story, relating what we want to share in a way which is really representative of our thought, in a way that it can be understood.
Yeah, and I think that's what is really important in our day and age, like understanding that the way we communicate ideas, even the way we write, like an email or a text or something from as simple as how we write, is really predicated on these sort of axioms of storytelling or communication. And I think what Beethoven does really well, which I think is really inspiring for us, is he communicates exactly what he wants all the time, very succinctly, and it's impactful. It's probably why he has so many sketches and he crosses things out so much that has to be said this way, and I can't figure it out until I've figured it out, and then once it's there, then I know it's really good. Yeah,
that's right. That's a big contrast between, okay, well, tell me the entire story in 2 sentences or 1.5 better. So Beethoven teaches us also a lesson of what is appropriate. He has very short pieces as well. And what kind of thought, what kind of complexity, what kind of nuance is appropriate for, let's say, Ländler, or short dance, or short piece, or sonata, or symphony, or even one movement, like what it is, this form of narrative is naturally designed to contain what kind of story, what kind of storytelling, what kind of topic, what kind of themes. Like, he's using themes, and Larry is so good at portraying and clarifying where the themes are, how they developed, and what it means when they develop from having this type of accompaniment to another. I mean, if you look at it technically, well, okay, Beethoven had triplets in there, and then he has boom, in in different instruments. So what, right? But so what is really big, because by changing this one element of narrative, Beethoven really changes where we are in the story, and where it's been, and where it's going.
Yeah, this movement actually reminds me of the sort of slow movements of his earlier sonatas, and a lot of pianists not understanding the symphonic flow and the movements that's within it, and myself included, would probably take time for certain things, or they slow down for these articulations so you can hear it, or there's certain things that there are a lot of tempo changes perhaps. But what's profound to me is seeing it as a symphonic conception, and with loads of instruments playing together, and it just keeps going, and things don't linger that much. There's only one time really it lingers, and it's already written in, which is the chorale version of the main theme, and then it sort of just kind of goes. And I am very moved by this, because the best things in life aren't when you indulge in that moment. It's almost like we can't hold on to those moments too tightly. Music is so. I think when you read a piece of literature, you can reread that line, and you can say, "Oh, that's so beautiful! Wow, so let's reread that." But with music, it just keeps going. It's intangible. It's fleeting. It goes, and I think that's what's really special about good interpreters. They understand that something's very beautiful, but you gotta let it go. And then certain things are beautiful, but no, there's something more beautiful coming up, and that's where you want to go. But you don't want to linger too long. And it's just like a day. The sunset is beautiful, but it keeps setting. It's not going to stay there for you. And I think that's relates to what Larry talks about in the man's profound relationship with nature. And we understand and have a great sense of what nature is and relationship with it. And with time, we understand that everything has to keep going. It never stops. It never just holds there. Everything has to keep going, and it's beautiful that way. Life is beautiful, not because it's still and static, but because it continues to move.
Yeah. And we are continuing to move. This is the end of our program for today. And we're moving on to many other things which we are doing in between these programs. It's true. Always a tremendous pleasure to walk back into that river. You can't walk into the river twice. But I am so happy to be walking into the river of Magnificent Nine series of programs again, twice and again and again. And it's always new, always different. So, and with this, I'll be saying goodbye for today and inviting everyone to check out our events. Make sure you mark your calendar, please. We are here on with the Beethoven on every Thursday at 2 p.m. and every Sunday at 12 noon. We're regular programming. If you like Beethoven or if you like other programs, we have daily shows, musicians from around the world. And we have occasionally huge shows, which are very entertaining, like auditions, competitions, and
with judges, and a lot of yelling, and it's amazing. And those shows are all on our wonderful website. You can see we are on many different social media platforms, including YouTube, LinkedIn, and so forth. Check out our website, soundispacificcompetition.com, choreorchestra.com, progressivemusicians.com, and of course virtualconcerthalls.com. I want to make sure we thank our team and our collaborators, New Media Productions, Virtual Concert Halls, Architects of Music, and of course the amazing Larry Rapchak, who puts all these together. Also a big hand to Steve Robinson, who doesn't get enough credit for amazing work he does for us, as well as making sure we have these connections with New Media Productions as well as with Larry Rapchak. So big hand to him. Thank you so much. And with that, we want to give a big thanks for you for joining us today. We have an amazing part 7 coming up where we dive into the third movement, no doubt. And this is our Beethoven 4 documentary series. We look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.
Bye now.
No matter where you are or who you are, music connects us all. We started with a dream, but now we are paving the future. Welcome to the Sound Espressiva Global Competition. Fully virtual, yet bringing musicians closer together than ever before, now on a global scale. True live, inclusivity, diversity, connection, community, an extraordinary array of judges. Get noticed by companies all over the world. Prizes, scholarships, performance opportunities. Apply to be a part of the most exciting congregation of artists like nothing you've ever seen before. We guarantee quality and leave no musician behind. We can't wait to hear you on the virtual stage.